Welcome to GouldFish on Games, where today's video is going to be a little bit left field for me. And that's because today's game is Soccer Kid, which was made by Chrysalis back in 1993 and was the result of the dev team wanting to combine their two previous titles, Manchester Football and Arabian Nights. Here are copies for the original Amiga, the A1200, DOS, and even the later GBA port. They all share the same basic box art, and the big box versions even share the entire box, with only these little stickers letting you know which platform is which. Inside the box we get a nicely printed manual which goes over all the moves that Soccer Kid has, as well as a whole bunch of discs with the game on it. The plot, and yes there is a plot and even an intro, is that the World Cup was stolen by a bunch of aliens. And when they try to run away, the ship promptly gets hit and destroyed, raining parts of the trophy down all across the world. And who's the only person that can save the day? Well, it's gotta be Soccer Kid, also known as Kid Cleats, and he races out to try and collect them all. And with that silliness out of the way, we end up at the title screen, where there's this really neat option that allows you to change the colour of the kid's kit. And this is even reflected in game, which is a really nice touch. The core of the game is very much an old school style platformer, where for the most part it's just going from left to right with little in the way of multiple paths. And thanks to the wonderful collection of maps you can find on Hall of Light, we can actually see how simple most of these levels actually are. Which is a bit of a pity because this is a time where platformers are starting to get far more complex in their level layouts. They did at least try to make up for this, and made sure there was plenty of variations in the level themes and the baddies, so it won't end up looking all the same. For example, while you're in England, which is the first country, you start in the kid's hometown before heading off to the countryside before arriving in London, and most of these levels have hidden items either above or below you that you'll have to work out how to get to. These areas are where you'll typically find health restorations or the all-important football cards, as these are the only way you'll get into the bonus stage, which is where you'll find the bits of the World Cup. While the level design might feel a little bit old, there are a number of surprising modern touches to the game, like the info points, which will give you hints and details on the level if you kick the ball into them, which is something that Yoshi's Island did 2 years later. There is also the option of watching an in-game tutorial, where the kid will show off some of his moves and tell you how to pull them off. And it's this moveset that Soccer Kid really separates itself from the other platformers. There's no jumping on baddies here or fireballs, all you have is either football and that's it. So you'll need to get quite skilled at the various moves that the kid can pull off if you hope to make it through to the end of the level. All of these moves do the same amount of damage, so while an overhead kick or a flying header might look flashy, they're mostly useful for racking up extra points and thus getting extra lives. You'll have to get used to moving around very quickly and kicking the ball ahead of you, as the baddies are numerous and sometimes quite large, and can take multiple hits with the ball to take them down. So kicking the ball ahead can really help you get the drop on some of those projectile throwing baddies. You can also expect to come across quite the range of baddies, as there tends to be unique human as well as creatures on each level. And between each country you'll get to see the world map, and that shows you where you're going as well as how much of the World Cup that you've collected so far. As mentioned earlier, you'll start in England, where you'll have to tackle pit bulls, farmers, cyclists as well as a few other nasties that will get in your way. Before you move on to Italy, and you'll start to see a theme with most of these baddies. They tend to be quite stereotyped, for better or worse, with Roman ghosts, waiters, fish, as well as mopeds. Next up is Russia, which continues the trend of not only having to deal with humans but as well as wildlife, where you'll be going up against sledges, wolves, swordfish, as well as sailors. The fourth location is Japan, where you'll start to deal with some interesting new types, such as robotic foes. On top of these, you'll also have to deal with dragonflies, moles, and mad professors. And finally, we get to America, where I have to start asking, why are all these baddies trying to stop us from getting the World Cup? What has a porcupine, a beach ball, or a rollerblading kid got against the World Cup? So with 2 zones for each area and 3 areas per country, there is a lot of levels for you to work through, and combined with some nasty enemy placement and just having 2 hearts, the game doesn't hold its punches. Not to mention the fact that bosses take multiple hits to take them down. Thankfully, there are a number of power-ups to help. This includes the typical ones that you'd expect, such as extra time, restoring your health, or even invulnerability. But on top of that, there's even one that will give you a 3rd heart, which is very handy, as well as the boots, which will make you faster as well as invulnerable for a short amount of time. But you gotta be careful of those spikes, as they will still take down your health. The game was ported to a number of platforms, including the CD32, 3DO, SNES, and PS1, and even a Windows Mobile version. And these all had their own unique changes, like the CD32 got an animated intro as well as an extra level. The SNES version also had its own Japanese only intro, with this very dynamic looking Kid Cleats. It's just a pity they didn't also update the main sprite to match it. And some of the releases came with this, a funky well, a little bit terrifying plushie. I mean, just look at it. Look at it. Surprisingly, Soccer Kid is actually on Steam. It's just basically the DOS version wrapped with DOSBox. And it's not even the CD-ROM edition that had the updated intro and CD music, but it's the original floppy disk edition. But this does help show that this is one of the few DOS games that directly use the Amiga music, as the mod files are just there in the installation folder. But all in all, it seems to be another low-effort repackaging by Pico Interactive. But it does mean that if you enjoyed what you've seen of this game so far, it is pretty easy to get your hands on a copy of it. So until next time, I've been the GouldFish, that was a kid who had some real ball skills, and this was GouldFish on Games. Goodbye! Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider liking, subscribing, or even passing the ball on to your mates. All so I can score some of those sweet YouTube goals.